The Galactic Empire was old, proud, and vast. For 10,000 years, its fleets had ruled the stars. Dozens of species bowed their heads before the Emperor's flag, and countless worlds paid tribute without question. The Empire had seen rebellions, but all of them had been crushed. The rulers of the galaxy believed no one could resist them. That belief began to change the day the Empire discovered humanity. At first, humans were nothing more than a curiosity. They came from a small blue planet circling an average star. Their ships were old by galactic standards, loud, clumsy machines of steel, fire, and fuel. The Empire laughed at them. Many in the Senate declared humans to be nothing more than primitives, but others warned that there was something unusual about them. When the first Imperial scout ship encountered a human vessel near the edge of the Orion Arm, they expected surrender. The humans did not surrender. Instead, they opened communications with cheerful voices and curious smiles. The captain of the Imperial ship had been insulted. How could a tiny young species be so bold? Within weeks, the Emperor sent a delegation to Earth. It was a day written into history books. The skies above New York lit up with silver as Imperial cruisers arrived in orbit. Crowds gathered in the streets, staring upward at the shining vessels. Some were afraid. Others were excited. Most of them laughed and pointed, as if it were some grand show. The Emperor's ambassadors descended in tall golden ships, their uniforms perfect and their faces serious. They expected fear. They expected silence. What they found instead was laughter. The humans laughed not because they did not understand the danger, but because the moment felt so strange, so unreal. Children waved flags. Reporters shouted questions. A street band began to play music while cameras rolled. The leader of the Imperial delegation, Lord Varen, stood tall on the podium, his voice deep and commanding. "People of Earth," he declared, "you now stand before the might of the Galactic Empire. You will kneel, or you will suffer the fate of those who resist." The translation carried across every screen, every speaker, every device. A hush fell over the crowd. The Empire's soldiers shifted, expecting silence, tears, and perhaps immediate surrender. Then someone in the crowd shouted loudly, "Do we at least get free Wi-Fi with that?" The crowd burst into laughter. Lord Varen's face tightened. He was used to fear. He was used to obedience. But laughter? That was new. He tried again. "You do not understand. The Empire does not make jokes. Kneel now or you will be crushed." Again the crowd responded with laughter. Some even clapped. Others shouted playful remarks. A group of university students began chanting, "Empire, Empire," as if it were the name of a sports team. Lord Varen's second-in-command whispered, "They mock us, my lord. They do not respect the throne." But Varen looked closer at the humans. He saw their eyes shining, not with fear but with boldness. Their laughter was not the laughter of fools. It was the laughter of people who refused to bow. Back in the halls of the Empire, news of the humans' response spread quickly. Some senators were outraged. How dare a young, primitive race insult the Emperor's name with laughter? Others were curious. What kind of species laughs at the face of death? The Emperor himself was silent. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans prepared. They knew the Empire was powerful. Their fleets could burn Earth in an hour. Their weapons were far beyond human technology. Yet instead of hiding, humanity united. Nations that had argued for centuries suddenly began to speak to one another. Scientists worked together. Engineers designed new machines. Soldiers trained side by side, and still, through all the tension, humans laughed. They laughed in the streets, in the newsrooms, and even in the bunkers. To them, laughter was not weakness. It was courage. One young pilot, Captain Maria Solis, put it best when she spoke to her squadron. "They expect us to cry. They expect us to break. But we're human. We've faced storms, wars, hunger, and even the cold silence of space. We've always laughed, even when the world was falling apart. If they come, we'll fight. But first we'll laugh." Her words spread across the planet, carried on screens and broadcasts, turning into a slogan. First we laugh, then we fight. The Empire saw this. They could not understand it. Among most species, laughter was a private thing, a sign of nervousness or play. Among humans, it was a weapon. The first test came sooner than expected. An Imperial warship arrived at the edge of the solar system, its cannons charged, ready to test human defenses. Human ships moved to meet it. By galactic standards, they were fragile, metal shells with missiles and railguns. But their crews were steady, and their voices over the radio were filled with humor. As the first shots were fired, one human pilot broadcasted, "Hey Empire, ever play dodgeball?" Before weaving his ship through beams of plasma, the Empire's soldiers were unnerved. They had faced rebels who screamed. They had faced foes who begged, but they had never faced enemies who joked while under fire. In orbit, Lord Varen watched the battle unfold. The human ships should have been destroyed in minutes, but they fought with surprising skill. Their laughter-filled communication spread even through the Empire's channels. His soldiers began to whisper. "Why do they laugh?" one asked. "Are they mad?" another wondered. "Or do they know something we do not?" The truth was simple. Humans laughed because they were alive. They laughed because, even in the shadow of impossible odds, they refused to lose their spirit. By the end of that day, the Imperial warship withdrew. It had not been destroyed, but neither had it broken the humans. The Empire's fleets had expected an easy victory. What they found was a new kind of enemy, an enemy that would not bow, an enemy that fought with courage, and an enemy whose laughter echoed across the stars. And so the first chapter of this strange war began. The Empire would bring fleets. They would bring fire. But the humans would bring something the galaxy had never seen before. They would bring laughter. The Empire had withdrawn its first warship, but the retreat was not a sign of weakness. It was a test. The Emperor wished to measure humanity's spirit, and the results troubled the highest councils. For the first time in centuries, an enemy had not fallen silent before Imperial might. Instead, they had laughed. Lord Varen returned to the capital world of Zytherian, his golden ship gliding into the Grand Palace. The Senate chamber was a vast hall filled with banners of conquered species. Each banner represented thousands of worlds bent to imperial rule. But now, for the first time in living memory, there was talk of an unconquered flag, a human flag that waved brightly on a small blue world. "The humans are fools," said one senator, his scaled hands gripping the edge of his desk. "A primitive race. Their laughter means nothing. Give us the order, and we will burn their world to ashes." Others disagreed. A wise elder from the insectoid Tyrell clicked her mandibles in thought. "I have studied their transmissions. I have watched their faces. Laughter to them is not the noise of children. It is defiance. It is unity. If they laugh in war, then they are dangerous." The Emperor, sitting silent upon his throne of crystal and steel, raised a single hand. The hall fell quiet. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Then we shall see how long they laugh when their skies burn." The decision was made. A fleet would be sent, not just one ship. The Empire would crush Earth in a storm of fire. On Earth, humanity prepared. Satellites spotted Imperial movements. Scientists worked day and night designing new defenses. Factories rang with the sound of machines forging weapons. But even as fear spread, laughter spread with it. Comedians filled stages with jokes about the Empire. Cartoonists drew images of humans riding on top of Imperial ships like surfers. Students made songs, their voices bright with courage. The world was frightened, yes, but it was also alive with spirit. Captain Maria Solis trained with her squadron in orbit around Earth. Their ships were small and fragile compared to Imperial cruisers, but every pilot flew with determination. "Remember," Maria told them, her voice clear over the comms, "they think we'll break. They think we'll cry. So when the fight comes, give them something else. Give them a smile they'll never forget." Her words echoed across the squadron. The pilots laughed together, even as they checked their weapons. That laughter carried into space. The fleet arrived 2 weeks later. The Empire sent 20 warships, each one larger than the mountains of Earth. Their hulls were black and silver, their cannons glowing with deadly power. When they entered the solar system, the stars themselves seemed to vanish behind their shadows. The people of Earth watched from every screen. Fear trembled in every heart, but then something remarkable happened. Crowds filled the streets again. They held banners and signs, not of surrender, but of mockery. One sign read, "Welcome to Earth. Please mind the traffic." Another said, "Invaders park at your own risk." Even as the sky darkened with the sight of the fleet, people laughed together. The Empire could not understand it. In orbit, the first human ships rose to meet the invaders. Maria's squadron was among them. Their small fighters flew like sparks against giants. Imperial commanders sneered. "Pathetic," one officer muttered. "End this quickly." Cannons fired. The void filled with beams of plasma and missiles streaking through the dark. The humans fought with desperate courage. Many ships were lost, but every loss was marked with laughter on the comms. Pilots told jokes even as their ships burned. Soldiers sang songs even as their weapons overheated. Maria's voice came through strong, steady. "We are not afraid. Do you hear us, Empire? We are alive, and we are laughing." The words spread, bouncing from ship to ship, from Earth to the farthest moon. Civilians repeated them. Soldiers engraved them on armor. Children whispered them before sleep. The battle raged for hours. The Empire expected quick victory, but humanity's spirit turned the fight into chaos. Small ships darted through gaps, striking Imperial hulls with reckless bravery. When missiles ran out, human pilots rammed their ships into engines, laughing even in their final moments. One Imperial commander turned to Lord Varen in disbelief. "They are outnumbered, outgunned, yet they do not stop. They fight like wildfire." Varen's jaw tightened. He remembered the first day he stood on Earth when laughter rolled through the streets. He had thought it foolishness then. Now, watching human ships tear holes in Imperial armor, he wondered if that laughter was more dangerous than any weapon. The Empire still won the battle. By the end of the day, Earth's defenses lay shattered. Human fleets were broken. Cities smoldered where fire rained from the sky. The Empire stood victorious. And yet, humanity did not kneel. Even as the ruins smoked, voices rose across the planet. Songs, jokes, and laughter filled the night. In underground shelters, survivors told stories of the battle, not with sorrow but with humor. Children drew pictures of Imperial ships with silly faces. Old men lifted their heads and laughed at the destruction, saying, "We're still here. Let them hear it." Maria Solis, though wounded, broadcast a message that reached every corner of Earth. "They may break our walls. They may burn our homes, but they cannot take what makes us human. We will laugh tomorrow. We will laugh the day after, and one day we will laugh in victory." Her words, carried by satellites and hidden transmitters, spread even beyond Earth. Other species enslaved by the Empire heard them. On distant worlds, whispers began. Whispers of a strange race called humans who laughed even in defeat. In the palace of Zetherion, the Emperor listened to recordings of Earth. Laughter filled the chamber, echoing from hidden speakers. It was not the laughter of fools. It was not the laughter of madness. It was something deeper, sharper, stronger. The Emperor's advisors argued. "Destroy them now," one cried. "Glass their world. End this." "No," another said. "They will only grow stronger. They will spread this spirit to others." "They are dangerous," whispered a third. "If other races learn to laugh like them, the Empire will face rebellion." The Emperor sat in silence. His eyes closed. The sound of human laughter rolled on. It was strange, even unsettling. But behind it was something even the Emperor could not ignore. Hope. And so, though Earth burned, the spark of resistance was lit. Humanity had not won the battle, but their spirit had carried farther than any weapon. Across the galaxy, slaves raised their heads. Soldiers questioned their orders. For the first time in centuries, cracks formed in the Empire's perfect rule, and all because of a strange, impossible thing. Because humans laughed. The battle for Earth was lost, yet the spirit of humanity had not died. The cities burned, the skies were scarred, but laughter still rose from the ruins. That laughter did not stay only on Earth. It traveled, carried on hidden signals, whispers, and rumors, moving across the stars like a spark in dry grass. On the slave worlds of the Empire, workers huddled in silence each night, whispering stories of survival. Now new stories reached them, stories of humans who laughed even when their world burned, stories of pilots who joked as they faced death, stories of children who painted the Empire's great ships as if they were clumsy toys. The laughter spread. On the frozen mines of Korith, chained laborers repeated Maria Solis's words. "First we laugh, then we fight." In the jungles of Valrin, rebels painted human slogans on the trees. On the desert world of Kethra, where the Empire had crushed resistance generations ago, children began to draw human faces with wide smiles on the walls. The Empire noticed. Lord Varen stood before the Emperor, his head bowed. "The humans are dangerous," he admitted, "not because of their weapons, but because of their spirit. Already their laughter infects others." The Emperor's gaze was hard. "Then we must silence them." Back on Earth, silence was impossible. Though many cities lay in ruins, resistance groups formed. Humans hid in mountains and forests in the shells of broken skyscrapers. They did not mourn in despair. They worked, they planned, and always they laughed. In one hidden base beneath the Andes Mountains, Maria Solis met with leaders of the resistance. Around a table of old maps and flickering lights, they shared news from across the world. "The Empire controls the skies," said General Idris Khan, his voice steady but tired. "But their soldiers do not understand us. They try to rule with fear. They do not see that fear only makes us laugh harder." Maria smiled, even with a bandage across her forehead. "They do not understand us because they cannot. We don't laugh because we are safe. We laugh because we are alive." The room filled with quiet chuckles even as bombs shook the earth above. Then a young technician entered with urgent news. "We have a signal." From outside Earth, someone is answering. The room froze. For months they had been sending out messages into the void, never knowing if anyone heard them. Now the signal was here. Maria leaned forward. "Put it through," the speakers crackled. A voice filled the room, strange but clear. It belonged to a Tyrell, one of the insectoid species long enslaved by the Empire. "We hear you, humans," the voice said. "We hear your laughter. It reaches even our dark tunnels. Teach us how to laugh like you." The room erupted with excitement. Humanity was not alone anymore. Their spirit had touched others. Across the galaxy, small flames of rebellion began to rise. On the world of Korath, miners threw down their tools and laughed in the faces of their guards. On Valrin, rebels began to strike Imperial patrols, singing human songs as they attacked. On Kethra, a secret broadcast spread Maria's speech, and whole villages gathered to laugh together under the stars. The Empire answered with violence. Armies marched. Ships rained fire. Yet with every blow, the laughter grew louder. Lord Varen returned to Earth, this time not with soldiers, but with questions. He sought to understand what gave humans this power. In a ruined city, he found a group of children playing among the ashes, tossing a ball made of cloth. They saw him, an Imperial lord in golden armor, and instead of cowering, they laughed. One child shouted, "Hey, shiny man, you want to play?" Varen stood frozen. He had crushed rebellions, ordered the destruction of cities, commanded fleets, but never had a child laughed at him. He felt anger rising, but behind it was confusion. Why did these humans not fear him? Why did they still smile? Later, he spoke to the Emperor again. "They are not like the others," Varen admitted. "Their laughter is not weakness. It is strength. It is their weapon." The Emperor's voice was cold. "Then we will break that weapon. We will make the galaxy forget their laughter." But the Emperor was wrong. The galaxy was already listening. In the hidden tunnels of Earth, Maria prepared for another broadcast. Her wounds still ached, but her spirit was unbroken. She faced the old transmitter with determination. "To the people of the stars," she said, her voice steady and clear, "we are humans. The Empire has burned our homes. They have crushed our cities, but they have not crushed us. We laugh still. And if you hear us, you are not alone. Laugh with us. Stand with us. Together we will fight." Her words traveled on secret channels, bouncing between satellites carried across the void. And wherever her voice reached, laughter followed. Far from Earth, a rebellion began. Small at first, only whispers and sparks, but with each day it grew. The Empire was vast, but its people were weary. Centuries of silence had weighed on them. Now they found courage in the sound of human laughter. On the mining moon of Taros, slaves painted the word human on the walls, though they had never seen one. On the jungle world of Valrin, fighters carried crude flags with smiling faces drawn in bright paint. On hidden ships in deep space, crews toasted to Earth, raising cups and laughing as they prepared for battle. The Empire's grip began to weaken, not in power, but in fear. For the first time in generations, the galaxy began to dream of freedom. In the palace of Zytherion, the Emperor sat alone, listening once more to the recordings of human laughter. It filled the chamber, rolling through the grand halls like a storm. He clenched his fists. "This cannot continue," he whispered. But deep inside, even he wondered, how could any empire silence the sound of a people who laughed in the face of death? Back on Earth, Maria stood with her squadron once more. Their ships were repaired, patched with scraps, not perfect, but ready. Above them, the night sky glittered with stars. Somewhere out there, others were laughing now too. "Today," Maria told them, "we are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every voice that dares to laugh against the dark. The Empire thinks they have broken us, but they will learn the truth. Humans do not break. We laugh, we rise, and we fight." The squadron cheered. Their voices were filled with courage, their laughter echoing through the comms. And as their ships lifted into the sky, their laughter joined the stars, an echo that promised the galaxy something new. The Empire's age of silence was ending, because humans had taught the stars how to laugh. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Its power had crushed countless rebellions. Its fleets had burned worlds into silence. But now the silence was breaking. The spark that humans lit on Earth was no longer just theirs. It had leapt from planet to planet, carried by whispers, by hidden signals, and by the courage of the oppressed. Across the stars, laughter rose where there had only been fear. On the frozen mines of Karith, miners stood together and refused to work. When the overseers struck them, the miners laughed. The sound echoed through the tunnels, shaking the guards more than any weapon. On the desert world of Kethra, entire villages began to gather at night, not in silence but in songs and laughter, repeating human jokes translated into their own languages. The Empire sent soldiers, but the people did not kneel. They stood tall, smiling as they faced their oppressors. And on the jungle world of Valrin, rebels painted smiling faces on their armor before striking Imperial patrols. Their laughter filled the trees as they ambushed soldiers, disappearing into the jungle before the enemy could respond. Everywhere, the same words spread like fire. First we laugh, then we fight. On Earth, Maria Solis watched the news of these uprisings with pride. She sat in a hidden command room deep beneath the Andes Mountains. Screens flickered with reports from smugglers, rebels, and sympathetic traders who risked everything to carry messages across the stars. "Valrine has begun open rebellion," said a young officer, pointing to one of the screens. "And Korith is holding out against 3 Imperial divisions." General Idris Khan leaned forward, his eyes shining. "It has begun. The galaxy is waking up," Maria nodded. "But the Empire will not let this continue. They will bring their full strength now. We must be ready." The humans were still rebuilding, still wounded. Their ships were few, their weapons simple compared to the Empire's mighty fleets. But they had something no other species had carried before, a spirit that refused to bow. Maria sent out a new broadcast, her voice clear and calm. "To all who hear this," she said, "you are not alone. The Empire is powerful, but it cannot silence us all. Stand, fight, and laugh with us. Together we will write a new future." Her message spread far beyond Earth. Entire star systems repeated it, passing it from hidden transmitter to hidden transmitter. And with every repetition, more voices joined. In the halls of the Empire, fear began to grow. Lord Veyron stood before the Emperor once again, this time with reports of uprisings across a dozen systems. The Senate chamber buzzed with anger and worry. "This is the humans' doing," one senator shouted. "They spread their poison of laughter and rebellion." Another cried, "If this continues, the Empire will fracture." The Emperor raised his hand, silencing them all. His voice was cold and sharp. "Then we will strike at the heart. We will not just destroy their armies. We will erase their spirit." He ordered a fleet larger than any seen in centuries to assemble, not just to crush Earth, but to crush every world touched by the spark of laughter. Lord Veyron bowed, but deep inside, doubt gnawed at him. He had seen humans with his own eyes. He had heard their laughter even in defeat. Could even the largest fleet in history silence them? Meanwhile, in the deep void between stars, humans and their new allies gathered. For the first time, ships from other species fought beside humans. On one hidden base orbiting a cold moon, Maria met leaders from the Tyrell, the Korith miners, and the Valrin rebels. The Tyrell elder clicked her mandibles softly. "We never thought laughter could be a weapon, but when we heard your voices, we felt hope again." A Korith miner, his body scarred from years of labor, spoke with pride. "When your people laughed as their world burned, we realized we had been silent too long. Now we will fight." Maria looked at them all. "We cannot win alone, but together we are stronger than the Empire knows. If we fight as one, if we keep our spirit alive, we can shake their throne." Around the table, voices of different worlds agreed. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy was not silent before the Empire. The first united battle came at Valrin. The Empire sent a fleet of 20 ships to crush the jungle rebels. But when they arrived, they found not only Valrin fighters but human squadrons. Korath miners turned soldiers, and Tyrell warships rising from the canopy. The battle was fierce. The Empire's weapons were stronger, their ships larger, but the rebels fought with something new. They fought with laughter ringing in their voices. "Welcome to the jungle," one human pilot shouted as he fired a missile into an Imperial cruiser. His squadron erupted in laughter. "Didn't expect us, did you?" a Korath miner yelled, swinging a captured cannon into an enemy dropship. Even the Tyrell, once silent and cold, clicked their mandibles in rhythm, a sound that echoed like strange laughter across the comms. The Empire won battles with fear. But here, fear had no place. By the end of the fight, 3 Imperial ships lay broken in the atmosphere, burning as they fell into Valrin's trees. The rebels cheered, their voices rising into the night sky. For the first time, an Imperial fleet had been forced to retreat, not by weapons alone, but by a spirit it could not crush. News of the victory spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, enslaved people lifted their heads. If humans and their allies could fight the Empire, maybe they could too. The Emperor, upon hearing the news, struck his throne in rage. "This laughter spreads like a disease," he roared. "If we do not destroy it now, it will destroy us." But deep in his heart, he knew the truth. The age of silence was ending. On Earth, Maria watched the stars from her ship's cockpit. She thought of the battles ahead. The Empire would not stop. The greatest storm of fire the galaxy had ever seen was coming, yet she smiled. Because humanity had already done the impossible. They had turned fear into laughter and laughter into hope. She spoke softly into her comms, words carried to every ally across the stars. "They think we are weak. They think our laughter is foolish. But let them come. Let them bring their fleets. We will meet them together. And when they fall, our laughter will echo across every world they ever tried to silence." Her words were repeated in countless tongues, across countless worlds. In caves, in jungles, in mines, in hidden ships, voices joined in one chorus. The galaxy laughed, and the Empire trembled. The Imperial fleet moved like a storm across the stars, massive and unyielding. Thousands of ships, each bristling with weapons that could burn entire planets, now sailed toward Earth. The Emperor's will was absolute. The humans must be crushed. Every rebellion sparked by their laughter would be snuffed out. Yet across the galaxy, humans and their allies were ready. From hidden moons, from shattered worlds, from forests and jungles, fleets rose. Human squadrons, small but fast, darted among the Imperial behemoths. Rebels from Korath, Valrin, and Tyrell ships formed a striking force never seen before. Even species long enslaved by the Empire now joined, carrying the courage that humans had inspired. Above Earth, Maria Solis looked at the mass of enemy ships glittering like a black sea. She breathed deeply, then smiled. "Remember," she said to her squadron, "we fight not just with weapons, but with laughter. Let them see we are alive. Let them hear us." Her fighters cheered, their voices carrying across comms in a chorus that blended courage, humor, and hope. The first shots rang out, but the humans did not flinch. A young pilot named Eli Torres looped his fighter around an Imperial destroyer, laughing over the comms. "Hey, Empire! Did you bring snacks for all those losers falling from your fleet?" Laughter spread through the human channels. Korath miners swung heavy cannons, blasting enemy fighters into pieces while shouting jokes that echoed across the void. Tyrell warriors clicked their mandibles in rhythm, a sound that terrified the enemy because it was neither fear nor chaos. It was unity. The Empire's commanders were confused. No fleet in history had laughed in battle. Fear had always preceded victory, but this was something else. Lord Veyron's voice trembled as he reported to the Emperor. "They are not afraid, they are joyful, even as they fight. It spreads to our soldiers. Some are faltering." The Emperor's gaze hardened, yet even he could not ignore the truth. The humans' laughter was a weapon stronger than any cannon. The battle spread across space like wildfire. Human ships wove through massive cruisers, striking weak points with daring precision. Rebel forces hit Imperial supply lines, cutting them off and turning retreat into chaos. And always, the sound of laughter filled every comm channel. On one burning Imperial ship, a young ensign whispered to his friend, "Do they really think this is funny?" The friend shook his head. "I don't know, but I can't stop smiling." Across the galaxy, Imperial officers began to whisper the same words. The humans They do not fear us. They do not break. And somehow, they make us feel alive. On the planet below, civilians watched the night sky streak with fire and light. Though terrified, they did not hide in despair. Families laughed, children shouted jokes at distant explosions, and every act of resistance echoed the message that humanity would not bow. Maria's voice came through the planet's emergency broadcast systems. No matter what happens, remember, we are alive. We fight, we laugh, and we rise. Look to the stars. If we can do this, so can you. Every voice matters. Every laugh matters. The words spread faster than any fleet could move. Across distant colonies, slaves paused their labor, whispered human slogans, and smiled. Across rebel planets, soldiers raised their heads, feeling hope for the first time in generations. The Empire was no longer simply fighting humans. They were fighting an idea, a spirit that refused to be silenced. The final clash came at the Orion Rift, a vast battlefield where the full Imperial fleet faced the united humans and allies. Maria led the charge. Her squadron darted between massive cruisers, striking critical points, evading death at impossible angles. Rebel forces followed, firing from hidden positions. The Tyrell unleashed their unique energy pulses, which disrupted Imperial targeting systems. Every attack was coordinated, every move precise. But what truly struck the Empire was the sound. Laughter, human, alien, free, flowed across the rift. It was contagious. Even some Imperial soldiers stopped to listen, smiles breaking across faces that had never known freedom. A destroyer captain cursed under his breath. They are laughing. While we kill them. How is this possible? Maria's voice boomed over the comms. Because we are alive, and life is stronger than fear. The battle turned. For every Imperial ship that fired, human and allied forces countered with skill and courage. For every strike, they responded with laughter and hope, breaking the enemy's morale. In the confusion, the Imperial fleet began to falter. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and officers argued. Laughter had become more powerful than fear. Lord Veyron watched from his command cruiser as the impossible unfolded. He had crushed worlds before. He had enforced obedience with terror. But this was beyond his understanding. The humans were small, fragile, and yet they were unstoppable because of one thing: spirit. He whispered to himself, "It is their laughter. It cannot be destroyed." Finally, the Empire's flagship faced Maria's ship directly. The Emperor himself watched, fury and disbelief twisting his face. "Strike her down," he commanded. "Crush the humans!" And this foolish rebellion. But Maria had learned well. With a daring maneuver, she dodged the flagship's weapons, weaving through massive firestorms. Her allies followed, striking weak points in a precise, coordinated attack. The flagship systems failed one by one, and with a final coordinated strike, it was disabled. The galaxy held its breath. Then, Maria's voice rang through every channel. "Every ship, every hidden transmitter, we are alive. We laugh, and we will not be silenced." The words were repeated across the galaxy, carried by allies, echoed by rebels, and yes, even by Imperial soldiers beginning to question their loyalty. The Empire's age of silence had ended. With their flagship crippled and their fleets faltering, the Emperor had no choice but to retreat. For the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy saw the Empire withdraw, not from victory, but from the unstoppable spirit of humanity and their allies. Across liberated worlds, celebrations erupted. Humans and allies danced among ruins, sang in the streets, and laughed under the stars. Even on planets far from Earth, enslaved species began to rise, their hearts filled with courage and joy. Maria Solis stood on the bridge of her ship, looking at the stars scattered with wreckage yet alive with freedom. Her squadron cheered, laughter spilling from their comms in waves. "Today," she said softly, "we did more than fight. We reminded the galaxy that fear cannot hold back hope. That laughter is louder than oppression. That life is stronger than death." Her words spread, etched into history, carried by voices across countless worlds. The Emperor, watching from his palace, closed his eyes. His fleets had not been destroyed, but something had shifted. The galaxy would never be the same. A small, seemingly weak species had changed everything, not through weapons alone, but through courage, unity, and laughter. And far from the Emperor's reach, humans laughed. They rebuilt their world, trained new pilots, and stood ready for the future. Their allies cheered alongside them, The galaxy was waking, and nothing would ever silence its laughter again, for humanity had shown the truth. Even against the mightiest empire, even in the darkest night, laughter could echo across the stars, and with it came hope, courage, and freedom. The galaxy listened, the galaxy laughed, and the empire would never forget it.